Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here. I am driving home from a day of work. Kind of a long, sluggish day. Not really a whole lot as we plug on, getting closer to Wrestlemania. Honestly, I keep thinking about the Wrestlemania trip that never was. If I was going to go to Philadelphia, my plane would have left tomorrow morning. I would have flew on Wednesday. There was pretty much a 24-hour period where I was putting together a WrestleMania 40 trip. So anybody that is on their way or is already there, I congratulate you, and you can hear from me that I am 100% jealous. As we get closer to WrestleMania each and every day, I keep thinking about if I would have pulled the trigger. I don't really know what was the deciding factor, but I think mainly it was the first time I went to go buy tickets to WrestleMania, and it was a 2-night event, and I figured out, like, oh shoot, you need 2 tickets. I honestly really thought that even though it was 2 nights, that you only had to buy 1 ticket. Stuff has changed a lot since my day. But today's topic, I was listening to the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. He interviewed CM Punk. Most people listened to the interview yesterday, and I definitely did see a lot of clips on Twitter. I did read a lot of things on Twitter as well as there was plenty of news articles put up about things CM Punk said during the interview. I believe it was just over an hour. The show's called the MMA Hour, but I don't know if it's all of them or at least that one show. I believe when I woke up was 4.5 hours long when I first turned it on. I had to fast forward about an hour into it to get to the CM Punk stuff, and there was a lot of good stuff that he went into. I think everybody has heard of the story of NDAs going on over there. So I thought there was going to be a lot of stuff that he either told Ariel Helwani he didn't want to talk about, or please don't ask me about, because he couldn't talk about it. But he couldn't talk about Brawl Out, but he was able to talk about the Jungle Boy stuff, basically didn't really go blow for blow for what happened, but he gave his side of the story for the most part. But I honestly, I get it. It's 10 years ago, and he did a couple interviews when he first came back, and he said some things during his off period. I think I really want to know about those last days of CM Punk in WWE. Around WrestleMania 30, I've always, kind of wondered, where was CM Punk going to be on the card for WrestleMania 30? We all know that he was kind of upset over, definitely being skipped. I think that he really saw himself, moving up the card around WrestleMania 28. He was pretty vocal about the fact that, part-timers like The Rock was there. But I think most people can realize, WrestleMania 28, The Rock brought a lot of people back to wrestling. I think that, he was able to make his point that he wanted to be seen as a main event guy. He was carrying the championship at the time. But when WrestleMania 29 came around and it was The Rock and Cena, once again, even though he had match of the night, pretty much with The Undertaker, it's almost like the one match that people really remember from WrestleMania 29. I'm not knocking it. It was a good show. Had a lot of fun watching it, but it's kind of the one thing that comes to my mind more than anything else. I think that when WrestleMania 30 came around, I think that Punk was like, I've put in a damn good 4 years in this company, being at the top of the card. I think he thought it really was going to be his time, and then they bring Batista back, He was a guy that definitely, needed a comeback. I think he honestly left wrestling too soon, and I think that he knew that his acting career was going to take off. I don't think WWE thought it was going to take off as much as it did, and maybe he didn't even think he was going to get that big. But he wanted to come back for that, thank you moment to the fans, and give it all that he could one more time before it was, all she wrote. And Batista ended up being the guy who won the Rumble. The Rumble ended up being the last night for CM Punk in the company. You go back and you watch that Rumble. He sort of talked about what happened in the Rumble, that he got injured. He didn't want to get dumped out, but kind of just like Kane took it upon himself. It was time to get Punk out of that Rumble, and he eliminated him. So I've always kind of thought that CM Punk versus Triple H was where he was going to be on the card. Of course, that really CM Punk ended up having the I apologize. Triple H ended up having the opening match of WrestleMania against Daniel Bryan. It really set the tone for a really awesome night, with Bryan getting the win. Of course, the stipulation was that if Triple H won, he got to go to the main event, because he was tired of seeing Randy Orton and Batista try to fight each other, when he was trying to lay the groundwork for one of them to have a great match and be champion. He was basically friends with both of them from Evolution, didn't want to put one over the other one, but he didn't mind who won. But that was just going to be it. You can also wonder if CM Punk was going to wrestle against Kane. Kane, of course, ended up being in that tag against the Shield. I think they could have easily replaced Kane with somebody else. They sort of used that as like the Authority team with the New Age Outlaws, who had a really big comeback that year. I don't think anybody really thought that it was going to get over as much as it did. Speaking of guys, coming back and doing it one more time before that was all she wrote. But I think that WrestleMania 30 was a really, really good card. And even though it really changed when CM Punk walked out of the company, I think that was one of the stories that made WrestleMania as big as it was, because people were really hoping that Punk was going to come back at the Chicago show right before WrestleMania. They ended up having Paul Heyman come out, and he was, sort of like, they played the song, and he was kind of like, out there being like, who did you expect anybody else? And he was friends with CM Punk. He was doing what the company wanted him to do, so he didn't like bury him too much. But I think that was one way to really shut the crowd down that night, and not let them kind of ruin the show, which was a very important show on the way to WrestleMania. But I mean, I don't really see them really shuffling the deck any other way. I think that it had to have been Punk versus Triple H. Why I want to hear a lot about CM Punk someday when he really gets into like in depth about his career. He's not the biggest on reporters. I think he really respects Ariel Helwani because how much he loves UFC and MMA, and the way that he covers that. And he kind of like you can see there was respect at the end of that interview. Especially they went into the fact that Ariel Helwani was saying that Punk could have easily done this, over Skype, and just been at home, but Punk, came in to actually be there for the interview, because I think he wanted to, really have a good showing there, where I think that he knew he had a story that he wanted to tell, and he was thanking Ariel for doing it, and not just being some guy that Punk says just sits in his basement and like fires off things on the internet that he thinks that are right, and he just labels them as fact. I think we all know who he's kind of hinting at, I guess you could say. But hey, it's gonna be a good show this weekend. I really think that it's gonna be there. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think it was gonna be Triple H? Do you think that that would have helped or hurt the card? Do you guys think it was going to be Kane and that was just going to be kind of a match that was on the card? And that's that, you know, all that she wrote. I think that honestly, a Kane versus Punk match might have hurt that show, because of the fact that it would have been one more match, and a lot of other matches would have lost their time. Maybe even the Divas Battle Royal that nobody really remembers because it was after the Undertaker match where he lost to Brock Lesnar. That one probably would have been the first match to get bumped, to get more time. So a lot of girls wouldn't have been able to participate in WrestleMania 30. So peace out, guys. Be home in a minute. See you guys then.